for a and so yeah, sorry. So as many of you may know about Niramai, but just I'll take 5 minutes, and then we have excellent speakers lined up to educate you more about breast cancer and breast health as such today. So Niramai is a 4-year-old company. Sarve Santu Niramayaha, let everyone be healthy is the motto, and our mission is to detect early stage breast cancer and save many, many lives. And breast cancer is one of the leading causes of cancer deaths, with over 680,000 women dying last year because of this disease, out of which 96,000 of them were right in India. Unfortunately, this is a disease which can be cured, and we have oncologists here who've actually helped so many women survive. And yes, this is a disease which can be, this is not a death sentence, and it can be cured. Only requirement is a detection, and of course there are several tools available today like mammography and others, but they have their own limitation. So what Niramai has done is to come up with a new method of detecting breast cancer in a completely privacy aware manner. Nobody sees the person or touches the person during the test. It's able to detect early lesions and cancer much, much before even a symptom appears, and also without any radiation, just measuring temperature variations on the chest. And it does work on women. Any person, any girl, any lady about 18 years can use this test. And it has been clinically validated as well, and it is much, much more affordable than other tests that's available. We conduct both, screenings in apartments and villages, as well as it's installed in Apollo Hospital, HCG, and many of the top hospitals that you can think about. Apollo clinics, sorry. And what is also interesting is that given COVID has struck and we have uh, people not going for regular screening, we have started breast health screening at the comfort of your home. So anyone who is interested, we will pass on the link. Please register for screening, and our team, with all taking COVID precautions, they will come in and help you assess your risk or assess your health very easily at your own home within 20 to half an hour time. So yeah, welcome again. Niramai is committed to saving many lives using technology, and particularly women's health. And in this regard, happy to sort of have two eminent speakers today, whom Dr. Lakshmi and Dr. Tanvi are going to take you through this session. Introducing the speakers and ensuring that all of you get the best benefit of this. And thanks a lot to both the speakers for agreeing. And I'm also thankful to Rosh for coming forward and proposing the speakers as well as sponsoring this show. Thanks a lot, Rosh, for taking care of women's health. Thanks, Lakshmi, and over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta. As she mentioned, today we have two eminent speakers with us. I'll take the opportunity to introduce them to you people. Dr. Smita Carol Saldana is an oncologist and an assistant professor at Kidwai Memorial Institute of Oncology, Bangalore. She's also a visiting consultant at Oncology India and Narayana Health Center, Langford Town. Dr. Saldana has done her MD in internal medicine and DM in medical oncology and continues to practice in this field. She has various publications under her name, and her areas of interest are not limited to breast and gynecological cancers, but also extend to gastrointestinal oncology, lymphomas, and stem cell transplantation. Our next speaker is Dr. Aparna Srivastava, who is a pediatrician with a DM in medical oncology from Kidwai Memorial Institute of Oncology, where she's currently managing critical ill adult and pediatric cancer patients. Prior to this, she was a consultant medical oncologist at Nanjappa Hospital, Shimoga, for 4 years, and also invested her time and effort at premier institutes such as PGI Chandigarh, Hassan Institute of Medical Sciences, Sanjay Gandhi Postgraduate Institute of Medical Sciences General Hospital, Lucknow, and many more. With multiple gold medals in various fields, she has contributed to multiple paper publications. I take this opportunity to welcome both of you. It's a pleasure and honor to have both of you addressing our webinar attendees for the evening. Over to you, Dr. Aparna and Dr. Cal. Can you please hold on, Dr. Smita and Dr. Aparna? I will just try and present the slides, and then you can take over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Lakshmi, and thank you, Rosh, for this wonderful opportunity, and Niramai.
Dr. Tanveen, would you be able to present the slides?
I think, she can start presenting the slides. So I'll be dealing on the risk factors. So once the slides are there, we can take it from the slides, but let me start. So as we all know, breast cancer is one of the cancer which is recently of increasing incidence in the urban population and specifically in the women of India. So earlier we thought cancer was a disease only of the developed nations. But now it is present in India, in the developed countries and in the developing countries to a large extent. Somebody wants to speak on the epidemiology? Dr. Lakshmi?
Right. Dr. Geeta did speak about it, but I can quickly go over. So what the recent statistics of WHO, as recent as 2020, said that in India, there are 178,361 newly estimated cases, and this is the highest diagnosed cancer in India. And the number of deaths is also equally great, with almost 1 lakh of women dying of breast cancer. So they say that while one woman is diagnosed with breast cancer every 3 minutes in India, one woman dies of breast cancer every 6 minutes. So the trend right now is that one in every 28 women is likely to develop breast cancer during her lifetime. And unfortunately, out of every 2 women who are detected, 1 woman succumbs to it. That's the latest statistics in India, and that's how alarming the number is. Over to you, Doctor.
Yeah. So can we move to the slide on the risk factors? So as we all know, the breast cancer is of different types. We are worried that it may be invasive or non-invasive. And the most important thing in breast cancer is, why is there an increased incidence in the present times? We see every other person, we hear every other case, somebody in the family has breast cancer. So is there anything we can do to prevent this incidence of breast cancer? Now, as all diseases, there are certain factors which cannot be controlled, which is not modifiable. But there are certain risk factors which can be modified or can be controlled. So if you have to briefly say the risk factors, the previous slide please. So the most important risk factors what we all can control, this first slide shows you all these risk factors. So there is a relative risk for each of the risk factors. Some important risk factors are something like a nulliparity, having a late childbirth beyond the age of 30-35 years. Then after pregnancy or after having a child, if you're not breastfeeding. So what happens in these situations is there will be an increased estrogen. The endogenous estrogen levels will be higher in the women. And that leads to the development of the cancer. So estrogen is the main driving factor for the cancer cells, the breast cancer cells. So all of us have estrogen hormone in us, but the duration of the estrogen exposure, the endogenous exposure, and the quantity, the quantum, this is one of the driving factors for the incidence or the increased incidence of breast cancer. So when does endogenous estrogen levels increase? One is when the child has an early menarche. Now, because if the child, the present lifestyle probably, or present food habits, or if the child is obese at childhood, the chances of having a menarche is much higher. And with every what the studies say is, if the menarche is postponed by 1 year, the relative risk reduction in the breast cancer is almost around 20%. So every 1 year the age of menarche is later, the incidence of breast cancer reduces by almost 20%. With the present lifestyle and present increased dependence on high fat diet, high calorie intake, or high lack of physical activity and obesity, these leads to something called as increased early estrogen menarche and a longer time of estrogen exposure. The next thing is if the female has a later menopause. So again, when the patient has a later menopause, the amount of years where the endogenous estrogen is acting will be longer, and they will be having more of the regular ovulatory cycles where again the estrogen level goes high. So this hormonal changes leads to directly increase in the risk of breast cancer. Now, I told you nulliparity. Nulliparity, again, what happens is when there is pregnancy, or when there is each pregnancy or each the chances of having anovulatory cycles are higher, and the amount of estrogen exposure for those many months decreases. So that gives some kind of protective effect to the women during the pregnancy and the lactation period. Having a childbirth after the age, the first child after the age of 30 or 35 years, compared to a woman who has a child less than 20 years. In the patient who has a person who has child at the age of beyond 30 years, again the levels of endogenous estrogen is higher, and we have seen studies have shown that they have a higher incidence of developing breast cancer. Certain other things like postmenopausal hormone therapy. In the earlier days, they would use postmenopausal hormone therapy with a combination of estrogen and progesterone. And this, again, the increased levels of estrogen would develop in the person and cause the stimulation of the cancer cells. But the present hormone replacement, or the present, usually they do not give a very high dose of estrogen levels. Then alcohol consumption, sedentary lifestyle, smoking. These are all relative risk of less than 2. Again, with the increased lifestyle changes what we have seen in the urban population, and now presently India, which is developing country, we see the blue collar job or the desk job is increased. The night shifts have increased. There is lack of sleep. All these stress factors, all these lead to increased sedentary lifestyle, and people having more of high changes, risk factors which lead to the development of breast cancer. Again, having high caloric intake or having a high fat diet leads to obesity, or per se by itself can also cause early menarche in the younger age group, and obesity after postmenopausal age, and that leads to the direct increased risk of breast cancer. These are some factors which we can control. Now, night shift work, again, it's because of lack of sleep. The lack of sleep leads to increased stress hormones, and that leads to the increased levels of factors which develop or promote the cancer growth. The next slide. There are another certain factors which cannot be modified. So in this, the most important thing is a female gender. We all are born as women, and we are all going to die as women. As such, every 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 women, there is a chance of developing breast cancer. But this is something we can't change. Every woman has a lifetime risk of developing breast cancer. Next, increasing age. As the age advances, the risk of developing breast cancer increases proportionally. So at the age of 30 years, it is relatively less. But as the age advances, above the age of 50 years, every 1 in 3 or 1 in 5 women will see developing breast cancer. Next, family history of breast cancer. Now, if the individual has a family history, somebody, your first degree relative, has a history of breast cancer or ovarian cancer or any other cancer, again, then the chances of developing breast cancer is high. So here I want to emphasize 2 important things. One thing is the genetic testing. You have something called as the BRCA mutation. I think most of us are familiar with this BRCA1 and BRCA2 mutation because of the Hollywood actress Angelina Jolie. There was something called as the Jolie effect. So actually what happened is her mother, Angelina Jolie, her mother was a BRCA mutation positive 1 carrier, and because her mother was positive, she underwent a risk reduction surgery because she is at a lifetime risk of developing breast cancer of more than 15 to 30-40%. Now in this BRCA mutation, it is basically a genetic mutation which can be seen in any of this hereditary person with having a hereditary risk, and they are BRCA1 or BRCA2. It is always an autosomal dominant, means only 50% of the carrier offsprings will have the mutation in them. Now if it's BRCA1, they have a lifetime risk of developing breast cancer almost around 25 to 80%, and if it is BRCA2, around 10 to 25%. They're also at risk of developing other cancers like ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer. So these are some of the things. The next thing is if there is a history, family history of a male breast cancer. In your family, any male has a breast cancer, then you are probably at a risk. If you have a first degree relative lesser than the age of 35 years having breast cancer, you require to get it tested. If you have more than two relatives, close relatives, that is, it can be first degree or it may be second degree, having breast cancer, in both bilateral breast cancers less than the age of 50 years, you require to get yourself tested. Or if somebody in the first degree relative in your family has both breast and ovarian cancer. Now, what do I mean by first degree relative? First degree relative is basically your parents, your siblings, so your sister or your mother. These are the first degree relatives, or your father and your brothers. So in them, if you have a history of breast or ovarian cancer, then you are at a risk of, you need to get yourself tested. Now, does it mean because you have a BRCA mutation carrier, you are definitely going to die of breast cancer, or you're definitely going to have breast cancer? No. Not all people will develop breast cancer, but the chances are almost, as I said, 25 to 80% for a BRCA1, around 15 to 30% for a BRCA2. And there are certain things what we do. We do something called as surveillance. So surveillance is done by annual MRI for each of these individuals who are a BRCA mutation carrier. They can go for something called as chemo prevention. There are certain hormonal tablets like tamoxifen or raloxifene, that is a selective estrogen receptor modulator, which can be given to these women for a certain duration to reduce the risk. Or they can go for the risk reduction surgeries like as Angelina Jolie went for bilateral prophylactic mastectomy and salpingo-oophorectomy. So this reduces the chances of developing the breast cancer or ovarian cancer. Next, if a person has a prior radiation to the chest, maybe a Hodgkin's lymphoma, or a person who had some kind of a lymphoma, required a radiation, external beam radiation, and they have received radiation in the childhood between the age of 10 to 30 years, they are at a relative risk of almost 5 of developing breast cancer. A personal history of breast cancer, that is, already if a person has prior history of breast cancer, and specifically if it's a triple negative breast cancer or a basal like breast cancer, the chances of developing a recurrence is higher, or developing a breast cancer in the opposite breast is higher. I already told you about this, beginning your period at a younger age, beginning menopause at an older age. That's something which is already inbuilt. Then the radiation exposure, that is external radiation for patients with lymphoma. Then race and ethnicity. Race and ethnicity, again, we can't do anything. Usually we see a higher risk in the Americans and the Hispanics. Next, if they are exposed to a tablet called diethylstilbestrol, this was earlier days. Presently nobody uses DEC. So in pregnancy, then they can be at an increased risk of developing breast cancer. I would also like to emphasize one point. There is something called as benign breast diseases, because most of the women come with benign breast diseases and they are worried if it is going to cause breast cancer. Most of the younger reproductive age women have something called as a fibrocystic disease. So in this benign breast disease, there are two components. One is called proliferative breast disease, one is non-proliferative. Now non-proliferative, that is usually a fibrocystic disease, was not associated with any increased risk of breast cancer. Only the proliferative benign breast disease, it can be without atypia or with atypia, we say. Now this is having some relative risk of developing breast cancer. Now if it is without atypia, it will be around less than 1 to 2 fold of relative risk of developing cancer. Whereas if it is with the atypical hyperplasia, the relative risk is little higher, as much as your radiation exposure. So usually all your benign breast diseases, that's the fibrocystic breast diseases, will not lead to breast cancer. Only a certain less than 3.6% of this population can have an increased risk of developing the breast cancer. The other thing is something called as lobular carcinoma in situ. Now again, this is one more specific thing. It develops bilateral breast, and that again has an increased relative risk of developing breast cancer. So with this, I think we can move to the next. Dr. Aparna will take over the next topic of signs and symptoms.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Smita, for an exhaustive coverage about the risk factors and causes of breast cancer. So now we all know about what causes breast cancer. So what are the signs and symptoms? How would a person come to know that she has or she might have breast cancer? So the most common symptom is a lump in the breast. So when a woman notices a lump in the breast, she has to take some action about that lump. So as Smita said, all lumps are not cancers, but any lump has to be evaluated. And once you get your tests done, then only you will know that maybe it's cancer, maybe it's not. So any lump should not be neglected. So sometimes we become doctors ourselves. So we'll have our own small groups of friends or relatives, and one asks the other one, hey, I found a breast lump, and the other one would say that no, it's okay. When you're breastfeeding, you will find such lumps because of breast milk. It's okay. Some lumps are innocuous, they don't cause any problems. Or you just Google on our phones, and we try to self medicate. And if the lump doesn't cause any problem, so women have this habit of self neglect. So they don't want to go to the doctor. I don't know what the problem is. They take care of the whole family, the children, their homework, the husband, their lunchbox, everything the woman takes care of. But when she has a problem herself, like she notices a lump, she should go immediately. At least the next step should be to consult a doctor. But many a times women neglect themselves. And one more very interesting thing about cancer is it's a disease which doesn't knock your door. It is very silent. It will come, sit in your body, it will grow, it will spread to the whole body, but it will be very painless. So a painless lump. So a woman has noticed a lump, but it is not causing any pain. So she will tend to neglect it. Okay, there is nothing. So one more uncle, one more aunt or granny will say that, even I had something like that, and I didn't give me any trouble. So any lump in the breast is to be taken seriously, and you have to get evaluated if you find any lump in the breast. And as I told you, cancer grows very slowly. It will go step by step. Lump, it has formed a lump, it has grown, and then it will start eating up the surrounding tissues. It will go to the skin. It will cause a dimple in the skin. So a dimple in the skin, then if it is near the nipple, it will retract the nipple. So if you find any recent change in your breast, you find an inverted nipple, your nipple was all right all these days, it has got inverted. So you have to take care, and you have to consult your doctor. You go to any doctor, go to a gynecologist, go to your physician, anyone, it's okay. But you get evaluated. And if you still, many I work in Shimoga, so I get all these rural crowd. So they will not bother even if it has infiltrated the skin, the lump has grown in size, it has become an ulcer, it will start oozing pus. That is the time they come to the hospital. So that's a very bad thing. I think we are a disgrace to womanhood if we cannot take care of ourselves. So any of these problems, lump in the breast, or change in the skin becomes very thick, the lump grows and it thickens the skin, or the skin becomes red, or nipple discharge. Sometimes you find bloody nipple discharge. So any blood coming from nipple, it is always a danger sign. So any of these signs and symptoms, if you have a woman has to, irrespective of the age, as we learned in the previous discussion, even younger women are getting affected, especially if you have a family history. Even younger patients can get breast cancer. And you have to consult your doctor only after all your evaluation. Then only you will reassure yourself that it is nothing. So how will you come to know that you have a lump in the breast? That only if you are evaluate, like if you are feeling your breast periodically, only then you will know that there is something wrong. So that is called breast awareness. So every woman has to be breast aware. She should know how her normal breasts feel like. Okay, so every periodically, say every 15 days, if you are feeling your breasts, you will know that usually my breast used to be soft. Now today I am finding some lump in my breast. So that is how you should be breast aware, and you self-examine yourself periodically. That is when you will come to know that you are having a lump in the breast, or the skin consistency of the skin has changed, or nipple has got inverted. So there are some very thick skinned people, so they don't care, the lump is there, it was painless, so they went on with their daily chores of life. And cancer is very fast and furious, so it spreads to your whole body. So they'll have severe back pain, it spreads to the backbones, it spreads to the liver, it goes to the brain, and they'll get fits and they get unconscious. That is the time they come to the hospital. So I think that is the heights of self neglect, and we should never allow cancer to grow so to that extent. Today the science and technology has changed, and even in the last advanced stages of cancer also we can treat the cancer. But the cure, the perfection cure is possible only in early stages of cancer. So when you get these early signs of breast cancer, that is when you should consult your doctor, and that is where we can do an early diagnosis and diagnose the cancer in early stages. So what are the different stages of cancer? So when you find the breast lump only in your breast, that is stage 1. And when it spreads to your armpits, that is stage 2. And it spreads to your skin and chest wall, that is where when it becomes a little painful. So stage 3 is usually painful, and you don't even then, if you don't care, it spreads all over your body. That is stage 4. So we should always try to diagnose breast cancer in early stages, stage 1 and 2, where we can cure the cancer, and the patient can be lead a healthy life just like any other woman of her age. So these late symptoms of breast cancer, as I told you, it spreads to your bone. You will get bone pain, weight loss, nausea, loss of appetite, jaundice when it spreads to your liver, shortness of breath when it spreads to your lungs, and you get cough. And in highly neglected cases, they come with a headache and seizures, fits, and they even come in a comatose stage, muscle weakness. So these are all late symptoms when it spreads, and it's very late. So our goal is to diagnose the breast cancer in early stages. So these are all about the signs and symptoms. So early detection, as I told you, the stage 1 and 2 are entirely curable, and that is our goal, to do the early detection. So there is something called stage 0. What is this stage 0? That is when the cancer is still growing and it hasn't yet become stage 1. So it is a very early stage of breast cancer, and when it is detected in stage 0, it's always curable, and it requires very minimal surgery. You don't have to remove the entire breast, and you can do a minimal surgery, just remove the lump and take your treatment, and you will get a cure. So how can we do this early detection? So now today I don't have any, I do the breast self-examination, I don't have any lump or any other problem, but I want to be sure that I don't have breast cancer. So what should I do? As we learned the causes of breast cancer is a disease of aging. So as we age, as your age crosses 40 years, you are at a higher risk of breast cancer. So any woman who hits 40 years, she has to get a simple test called mammography. So what is this mammography? It is a simple x-ray of the breast which tells us if there is any slow growing, like in early stages, in stage 0, if breast cancer is stealthily growing slowly, we can pick it up, and with minimal surgery we can cure breast cancer. So the message, the take home message of this discussion is that when a woman hits 40 years, she has to get a the screening test. So this is called screening. So what is cancer screening? We don't want to wait till cancer grows and spreads all over the body. We want to know whether it has started to grow, whether I'm at risk of breast cancer. So we do some simple tests to know whether you are at risk of breast cancer, that is mammography. So by getting this simple mammography test, a woman who is 40 years, she can know whether she is at high risk. And if you have a family history, if your mother or sister, any first degree relative was affected, then at a younger age, like 25 years, they have to start getting their breast self examination. Every yearly they have to consult their doctor, get a proper examination of the breast, then you get an MRI or ultrasound, and mammography also you can start. You have to get earlier for early detection of breast cancer. So this is all about early detection. And so how does the early diagnosis affect you? It will increase your chances of survival, and we are aiming at perfection. So we want 100% cure rates, and that is why we have to diagnose it early. And as I explained, the self-examination of the breast is very important, and by periodically examining the breast, many women can find out the lumps at a very small size. Even a 0.5 centimeter lump can be felt by the woman herself, even before going to the doctor. So yeah, next slide. So, yeah, so I think we have discussed it all. So whenever you have skin changes in the breast, you find a lump, you have to go for a testing. And these are the three things: mammography, breast ultrasound, and breast MRI. So depending on your locality, whether the availability of mammography or MRI is there, you have to get it. And the first thing, the best thing is you consult your doctor. They will guide you more regarding what is the best test for you. So yeah, next slide. Yeah, and one more last thing, our sponsor is Roche. So they have this different medications which are available for treating the breast cancer. So we keep telling that breast cancer is the most common cancer and all, but it's not a single disease. So it has different personalities. See, some doctors are very jolly, some doctors are very strict, some are very neutral. Just like that, even breast cancer has different phases. Okay, some cancers are very mild, some are very aggressive, so some are in between. And so depending on their the personality of breast cancer, we give different treatments for the patient. So we have something called chemotherapy, and we have targeted therapy, we have immunotherapy. So there are different uh, we do different tests and decide which patient should get what treatment. So chemotherapy is not all that is available today. We have different tests available, and it is sort of a tailor-made treatment that we give to the patient. So there are different types of breast cancer, and depending on their molecular types, we give different treatments. So this HER2 is a very aggressive form of breast cancer, and Roche has multiple HER2 targeted therapies, which are very tailor made, and they are like magic bullets. They hit the target and they give wonderful results. Even in last stages of breast cancer, it works wonders, and we get different very good results. So why I told you about these different types of breast cancer is, you might have heard patients discussing that I got only chemotherapy, I got these hormone tablets. They told me that I have to take this tablet for 10 years after my surgery. But the other patient is advised hormone therapy. The other one is not advised. So that creates a lot of confusion in the minds of patients. So every breast cancer is different, and depending on their molecular type, the doctors would have suggested different medicines. So next slide. Yeah, this is a test called immunohistochemistry. It's a very advanced type of test which is done on the tumor sample, and we, depending on the molecular typing, we decide the treatment for the patient. Next slide. Yeah, next. I think that's all that I'll just conclude by saying that any breast lump is not to be neglected by the woman, and any woman who has hit 40 years, she has to go for a mammography and get herself screened that she doesn't have breast cancer. And over to you, Dr. Smita, for the next discussion on breast cancer.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Aparna. It was a wonderful discussion and lively inputs on the staging and the clinical diagnosis. So I'll be briefly talking overview of the treatment for breast cancer. So when we have breast cancer, it is not all as one. We have three broad different types, we can say. So the most important is, one is hormone receptor. I was telling about estrogen receptor or estrogen hormone. So the tumor cells can be expressing estrogen receptors. So then we say it's estrogen positive, ER positive, estrogen receptor positive, and progesterone receptor positive. So these are usually seen in the elderly age group, and they are said as hormone positive. They usually have a better prognosis, and the advantages they have usually the age beyond postmenopausal age they are diagnosed, and they will be usually given hormonal therapy. Next, we have something called as the HER2 positive breast cancer. What Dr. Aparna said, that we have this HER2 testing. It can be by IHC or by the PCR FISH testing, and we have targeted therapy for HER2 positive breast cancer. In the earlier days, that is before 2000, we used to treat all breast cancer as one. But since 2000, that was when the advent of the HER2 agent, the trastuzumab, came from Roche. So they were the innovators who brought in the targeted therapy trastuzumab. And once it came into the market, we realized the importance of doing this HER2 testing. And if the person was HER2 positive, giving the anti-HER2 agent, that is the trastuzumab, improved the survival to a great extent. And even in metastatic breast cancer, we saw that the overall survival increased to a greater extent. So in early breast cancer, our main aim is to completely cure the disease and to prevent the recurrence. Whereas in a metastatic breast cancer, that is the stage 4, our main aim of treatment is, one is to reduce the pain and the symptoms of the patient, to improve the lifespan, that is the overall survival, and to prevent progression of the disease. So in these all three factors, the targeted therapy worked wonderfully for the HER2 positive. So at present, we can say HER2 positive, if they are positive, they have a better treatment options, and therefore they do better. The last subset is the triple negative breast cancer, which is where neither HER2 is positive, neither the hormone receptors are positive, and this is still a subset which is among all the breast cancers which does poorly, because we don't have any kind of targeted therapy for it specifically. We have the role of immunotherapy for this subset of patients, but still compared to the hormone receptor positive and the HER2 positive, this subgroup does still poorly. Now in breast cancer, the main, or any cancer per se, the main treatment always is surgery. So you first remove the tumor, and then we give treatment to prevent the relapse or the recurrence. So if there is a lump in the breast, the lump has to be removed. That is if it is a cancerous lump. So initially, how do we know it is cancer, yes or no, or it is just a benign disease? We do something called as a true cut biopsy, and that is subjected to a microscopic testing and the IHC, what I told you, the hormone receptors and the HER2 receptors. And we come to know earlier, before doing the surgery itself, what kind of subgroup the breast cancer is in. Is it a cancer, yes or no? And then, is it HER2 positive, is it hormone positive, receptor positive, or is it triple negative? Now, usually when the breast lump is very big, as Dr. Aparna showed you, if there is skin ulceration, or if there is a very big axillary lymph node which is fixed, which cannot be taken in while doing surgery, it may not be able to remove it en masse, then we give something called as neoadjuvant chemotherapy. If not, we take the patient upfront for surgery. So surgery is always required for any breast cancer which is early breast cancer till the stage 3. In stage 4 and beyond, when I mean stage 4, means the disease has already spread beyond the breast. It has spread maybe to the liver, maybe to the lungs, or to the bones. In such situations, the breast cancer does not become completely curable. But it is not the end of the life for that particular person. It is not the end of the world for that person, even stage 4. We have newer molecules, we have very advanced treatment options, and they do well with this therapy. We have seen patients who are in stage 4 also coming with a complete response. That is, all the disease disappears with your newer targeted therapies, immunotherapies. Now, if the disease is localized, you do surgery. Post surgery, the person goes for something called as adjuvant radiation and adjuvant chemotherapy. Now, what is the need for giving this radiation therapy and the chemotherapy? Now, when you are removing the tumor cells from the breast, you are removing the mass and mass, you are removing the bulk of the tumor, but surrounding structures, still there may be some amount of a little precancerous changes may be there. So to prevent the local recurrence, we give something called as radiotherapy. To prevent distant recurrence, that is we say breast cancer is a systemic disease. Means once the breast cancer has developed, there will be some microcancerous cells in the tumors in the blood circulation, hematogenous, and that may go and deposit in the liver or in the bone or in the lungs and cause a relapse early, or it may lead into a stage 4 disease. So to prevent the recurrence and to prevent the spread of the disease, we give the adjuvant chemotherapy. And usually chemotherapy, there are various combinations, so it is tailored for each particular patient. The routinely what we use is almost 6 to 8 cycles of therapy once in 3 weeks. So roughly the treatment lasts for around 6 months. And if the person is HER2 positive, the tumor is HER2 positive, giving targeted therapy, that is the trastuzumab, is definitely beneficial. Initially, we had only Roche with their innovator molecule, so it was very expensive. But now we have a lot of biosimilars, and the cost, even the Roche company has brought their product with assistance, patient assistance. Even the biosimilars come at a reduced cost. So it is affordable to most of the people, trastuzumab at present. So with this, I think I will, the other thing is, if it's a metastatic breast cancer, we have advanced treatment options. It is not that it is the end of the world. So if it is metastatic breast cancer, we have hormone therapies, we have immunotherapies, we have targeted therapies which are more advanced than the trastuzumab. We have something called as TDM1, we have trastuzumab deruxtecan, we have immunotherapy like atezolizumab, we have various drugs. And with this, we try to reduce the symptoms, improve the quality of life for the particular person, and prolong the lifespan. Also, a small mention on breast conservation therapy. Now, most of the urban women, most of the younger women, or most of the ladies are very cosmetically concerned, and they will be worried, if they are going to remove my breast, how will I look? So there is something called as breast conservation therapy. So this is, if it's a tumor is of a smaller size, if it's an early breast cancer, or even if it is a stage 2 or stage 3 early disease, you can go in for something called as neoadjuvant chemotherapy, where we give the chemotherapy prior to the surgery, reduce the bulk of the disease, and then take the patient for the breast conservation surgery. So here only the lump is removed. The entire breast is not removed by surgery. But after surgery of breast conservation, they have to receive adjuvant radiation. There is no, they cannot default on the radiation therapy, because the radiation therapy plus the surgery is the equivalent to only the mastectomy. So this is two important things. And the other thing is, as Dr. Aparna said, post your complete surgery, radiation and chemotherapy, if the person is hormone receptor positive, they usually are given hormone therapy for 5 to 10 years depending on their risk. If they are HER2 positive, we give the HER2 agent for a duration of 1 year, a total duration of 1 year from diagnosis. So roughly around 17 cycles of targeted therapy. Now, the advantage of targeted therapy is it acts only on the HER2 positive cells. So you don't see the side effects what you see with chemotherapy, like hair loss, like maybe tiredness, the counts falling down. These are not seen with your targeted therapy. Yeah, so in brief, I think this is what. So I think we have few questions. We are already running short, so we'll take up the questions.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Smita. So I think one of the first questions that came was, what is microcalcification in breast when observed in mammogram? What needs to be done? Specifically in dense breast, it becomes difficult to detect. Dr. Aparna, do you want to take that question?
Please. So these microcalcifications are the most common findings that we do, that we see in screening mammography. So that's in a very early stage of cancer. So cancer is not a it doesn't happen in one day. It has a multi-step pathway, and it grows over many years. Okay, so initially it starts as a microcalcification. It may be cancerous or it may not be cancerous. So usually mammographic detected densities are microcalcification. So if your mammography is showing a microcalcification, you have to get evaluated. So there are these lumpectomy. It's called a lumpectomy. Around that microcalcification, they take out the breast and they'll examine. It may be cancer or it may just be that stage 0 cancer. And you have to take treatment. There was one very famous celebrity, this Ayushmann Khurrana's wife was the stage 0 breast cancer, the ductal carcinoma in situ. It's stage 0. It's not really cancer.
Dr. Taira Kashyap. Taira Kashyap, doctor.
Yeah. My knowledge is not that great about Hollywood or Bollywood. So yeah. So that is a very early stage of breast cancer, stage 0 breast cancer.
Yeah, of course, instead of just if I can interrupt, right? I mean, just to add here. So if it is, of course, dense breast, and if you have microcalcification, instead of actually removing it and putting it under the microscope, I'll take the plug to say, like, Niramai test is meant for these early stage detection as well, where it's completely non-invasive. It's almost like sitting in a studio and just sitting, like, with your hands up, and the imaging can be done. Thermal imaging can be done with our AI software. We also are able to say whether it is positive or negative. And basically, positive doesn't mean you get into a chemotherapy or radiotherapy, right? If it's positive means you can go for a diagnostic workup as a follow-up, right? It could be an ultrasound or an MRI, breast MRI. So that is what we recommend for dense breast, particularly.
Yes, but I always suggest that you have to get a biopsy at least, and guided biopsy, just where the calcification is, you can take a biopsy and see what it is. If it is benign, well and good.
Thank you, Dr. Aparna. Dr. Smita, we would like you to answer the next question. It says, does breast cancer comes early with a lump, or are there breast cancers without lumps?
So most of the breast cancers will be having a lump, but that is, see, as the tumor size increases, the lump comes in. So when the tumor is less than a centimeter, less than 1 centimeter, it will not be felt easily. So that is why importance of self breast examination. That is why we say you should be knowing your breast well. You should feel your breast and should be knowing it. And as Dr. Aparna said, preferably the 5th or 6th day post your menses. This is the usual good time to look for your feel your breast and see the normal texture. So if there is any abnormal lumps, then you require to get it tested. Now, most of the breast cancer will be associated with the lump. If not in the breast proper, at least they will be having something in the axilla. If it is in the retroareolar region, that is around the nipple area, now this may not be felt easily. You may not be able to feel a lump easily because it is much behind. If it is in the upper outer quadrant or in the lower inner quadrant, you will usually feel it. Only the retroareolar usually will be missed on a routine palpation. And that is it, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. Dr. Aparna, would you like to answer on how frequently mammogram can be done if it is suspicious grade 2 Birad, I'm assuming that's Birad.
Well, that's great too.
Okay, so if usually it is done once in 2 or 3 years. For as I said, 40 years is the age when you get your first mammogram, and if it is suspicious, usually immediately we will do a complementary test like an ultrasound to immediately see what's happening. So if it is like very suspicious, if they say you said BIRADS 2, so BIRADS 2 is usually benign. It may not be very suggestive of breast cancer. That is when we keep the patient under follow-up. If ultrasound is also normal and we are not finding anything suspicious, we keep them under follow-up, and every 2 or 3 years you have to keep doing a breast self-examination, and every 2 years you can, because 40 years is very like that is the if you are above 50 years, we say do mammogram every year. But if you're 40, between 40 and 50 years, it's usually done once in 2 years, and you keep the patient under close follow-up. So once in 2 years you can get a repeat mammogram if your initial mammogram was suspicious and it was given BIRADS 2.
Thank you, Dr. Aparna. There's another very frequently asked question: Are all breast cancers are cancerous? I'm assuming they want to ask if all breast lumps are cancerous, or any benign breast lesion, any breast lesion are cancerous. I think that will be better.
Yeah. So I think as the breast cancer indicates, breast cancer is definitely cancerous, but all breast lumps are not cancerous. I also told you in the risk factors, the most important thing we see in the younger women, the reproductive age group, is they come with fibrocystic disease. They may be having some few nodularities, and the lady gets worried extensively. They will spend sleepless nights before they get an examination done, thinking it is cancer. So all lumps are not cancerous. If the lump is hard, so hard means usually hard, I mean it's difficult for you to say, but I'm roughly telling, if it is something very hard like your bone, or if it is something which is of new onset, you have not felt this kind of a nodularity earlier, it has recently appeared in the few weeks duration, and it is associated with the lump in your armpit or in the neck region, the supraclavicular fossa we say, then most probably it may be a cancerous. But all lumps are not malignant, but it is definitely warrants a examination. You require to go for a clinical examination to a doctor, that is your oncologist or your gynecologist or your physician, get it checked, and then if it is normal, you can get your examination done once in 3 years. So all lumps are not cancerous.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. I have a question here. When skipping to finish off the screening part together, Dr. Aparna, there is a person here asking, how often should women of age about 25 get tested, given that they don't have any history of breast cancer in the family?
Yeah, if you don't have a family history of breast cancer, you have to every year you have to get examination by the physician or your gynecologist. You don't strictly require any scans like ultrasound or mammography. The scans will start only at 40 years. That is, as you don't have any family history, your scans will start only at 40 years. But I would like to tell one thing, that once we marry and we have our career and marriage, both are very like you have to compete in both the spheres, we tend to neglect ourselves. So I think we should take a break, say 1 or 2 days, and every year you get yourself a picnic to the hospital. So just go to the hospital, get your BP, get your sugar checked, get your gynecologist examine you, and just for your well-being. It's not it is for all our screening tests. See, we say that when you are 30 years you should get your BP checked, you get your sugar checked. So we'll never realize when we are growing old, we'll think that we are still very young. So I think every year, maybe nearing your birthday or anniversary something, and I think as a couple also it's very nice to go together and get both the party checked, so that it will be really good that so many times in a screening test, if you come to know that you have something dreaded like cancer, it is really nice to get it cured and diagnose it in a very early stage. So the screening, the importance of screening tests are not highlighted in India. Usually in Western countries, they have this health insurance package, and in many companies also they mandate that they have to get some tests done. But in India, these screening tests are not gaining that popularity. So I think we should devote one day of our year for this picnic to the hospital.
I think that's a very well put statement. The minute you call it a hospital visit, people may not want to do it on their birthdays or anniversaries. But if you say picnic, yes. And if people are saying they don't want to go on their birthday and get the bad news, well, if you get it as early as possible, it's better, so that, you know, there is cure does exist. Thank you, Dr. Aparna, for that. Dr. Smith, I would like to ask this question to you. To say that my aunt underwent surgery for breast cancer last year. She also took injections after the surgery. What else does she need to care?
So as I had said, it depends on what kind of cancer, I mean breast cancer it was. Was it a hormone receptor positive? Was it triple negative, or was it HER2 positive? From what you are saying, I assume it is triple negative, because you are saying she underwent surgery. She would have, if the age is above 70 years, usually we do not advocate giving radiation therapy, because the cost, the benefit is not that great, we say. And chemotherapy she has already received. So if she is a triple negative, then the treatment is completed. But if she was a hormone receptor positive, so it's very important. If she has not got her, we say this as the IHC4 test. Okay. So if she has not got this ER/PR, HER2 and the Ki67 tested, that is the looking for the grade and the hormone receptor status, then it requires to be done. If she's hormone receptor positive, she requires to take the hormonal therapy. If she was HER2 positive, she should have received the targeted therapy. I'm assuming it was tested and it was negative. So that completes the treatment. She requires every 6 months checkup for the first 1 year, following which she can go annual for the checkup. And requires a self breast examination, needs to be observant that she does not develop any kind of other lumps. If she has any symptoms of cough, any back pain, requires to go and get herself evaluated.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. Dr. Aparna, they're requesting for a few words on breast reconstruction. Particularly, the question is it safe?
Breast reconstruction. So, is it what is the context? In the context of breast cancer, definitely it is safe. And I think even otherwise also cosmetic also, there are to increase the size of the breast or to decrease the size of the breast, there is always breast reconstruction. So what happened, Dr. Smita also highlighted this thing called breast conservation surgery. So when a woman of reproductive age or even otherwise, when breast is to be removed, it comes as a big shock, and it kind of disfigures you and scars you for life. And also the sexual act, it is not only for appearance, the sexual pleasure and other things also will get affected because of removing the entire breast. So this many nowadays we tend to decrease the size of the breast cancerous lump, and we do a very minimal surgery, just remove the tumor and you keep the shape and size of the breast as it is. So for that purpose, sometimes if the cancer is very big, the whole breast has to be removed. And now there are multiple plastic surgical ways where you can reconstruct the breast, and even this implants are used to reconstruct the breast. It is totally safe. You don't have to think twice. You can definitely go in for breast reconstruction. It can be done as a single procedure. The same surgery, when your breast cancer is being removed, in the same sitting you can get a reconstruction. Or you haven't thought about it, you need some time, you can finish all your treatment, and maybe 6 months later also you can get a reconstruction.
Thank you, Dr. Aparna. Dr. Smita, continuing with that question, Amarjit asking that even after getting breast removal and chemotherapy, can breast cancer reoccur?
Yeah, breast cancer can reoccur. See, that is the entire thing in cancer. No? That is why we are talking about this early diagnosis and completion of treatment. So once, specifically breast cancer, we say is a systemic disease. So that means there may be a cancerous cells in the somewhere, there may be a micro cancerous cells, and this can anytime reappear, or they can increase in numbers if the treatment has not been optimal. So that is why the chances of recurrence is higher with the triple negative breast cancer and HER2 positive breast cancer if they do not receive the anti-HER2 therapy. Hormone positive breast cancer is usually because we're giving them the hormonal therapy, and as such their biology of the disease says the chances of recurrence is little less likely. The triple negative breast cancers usually recur within the 1 to 2 years after diagnosis, and HER2 also will have more of brain metastasis. So that is why it's important to undergo the complete treatment, that's surgery, the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy, very important. And don't think that none of the doctors are advising you treatment which is not warranted. Now I've seen many people, when you tell them chemotherapy, they are very hesitant to receive chemotherapy. They say it is causing a lot of problems, it is as good as going and committing, it's like going and committing death. It is not. If even we know the toxicities of chemotherapy, we all know. I'm not saying chemotherapy comes without toxicity, but the importance is required because it's a cancerous cell. So you can't give some medication which will work without any kind of side effects. So you have to give some medicine which works with more amount of, it kills the cells. And it kills entire all your body cells. It's not like the targeted therapy. But it is definitely warranted. So the disease can relapse, it can recur. For a triple negative, chances of recurrence is within 1 to 2 years. For a HER2, they may have more of symptoms of brain metastasis. For a hormone receptor positive breast cancer, they will come up after 5 to 10 years, and they may have more of bone disease.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I think we have a very prevalent question here saying, is COVID vaccine safe in cancer patients? Dr. Aparna, would you like to take that question?
Yes, COVID is my domain. So today we are living in this world of COVID pandemic, and earlier I used to think that I'm a cancer slayer and I'm like a giant slayer. But today COVID has come as a competitor for cancer. So we have COVID on one hand and cancer on another hand. So in this COVID era, so we are advising even normal healthy people are they have to take COVID vaccine, isn't it? So similarly, even our patients with cancer are very high risk for complications of COVID, and they get very sick. So patients with cancer, they have to take and if you remember our COVID vaccination campaign, the patients with cancer, high risk patients, they were the first ones to receive COVID vaccine along with senior citizens, then started all other healthy individuals. So as Dr. Smita was explaining, that when we give chemotherapy to the patient, their body immunity is suppressed, their immunity will weaken, so they become susceptible to multiple infections, just like COVID infection. So they have to take COVID vaccine, and all the 3 vaccines which are available today in India, Covaxin, Covishield and Sputnik V, all 3 are very safe in patients with cancer, and multiple doses have been given. So it has mild side effects like fever, pain at the site of injection. They'll get a little flu kind of illness also sometimes. So they don't have to worry about these minor side effects. It is to prevent a severe COVID infection and to prevent death from COVID infection. So they have to take COVID vaccine. But one word of caution, if you're on chemotherapy, if you're taking chemotherapy, so you have to consult your doctor, because when you're taking chemotherapy, your blood counts will fall. And as you know, it's an intramuscular, it's given to your muscles. So an intramuscular injection, you have to maintain a platelet count. So if because of chemotherapy your platelet counts are down, that is not the right time to take your COVID vaccine. You have to take vaccine, but you consult your doctor, and when they say that you are okay, you have to take COVID vaccine, that is the time. Usually along with I'm giving COVID vaccine along with chemotherapy, because for every chemotherapy we check their blood tests and we ensure that everything is normal. That is when I'm giving COVID vaccine also. So please consult your oncologist and go ahead with COVID vaccine without any hesitation.
Yeah, I would like to add over here, all the people, whoever, if you have a cancer survivor at your place, if you have a patient with cancer or undergoing treatment, please encourage all of them to take the vaccination. That is, as Dr. Aparna rightly said, consult your doctor and please take the vaccination, because what we have seen is, I think COVID is there with us to stay for a long time. It is not going to disappear soon. What we have seen is the mortality and the morbidity is definitely lesser for patients who are vaccinated. And I have lost a lot of patients with cancer to COVID. So what has happened is, probably the initial in the initial, when it came to the healthcare givers, healthcare providers, we didn't it was not available for all the people, and many of them didn't take it. Many of them were worried. So this wave, the second wave, as we have lost a lot of patients to COVID, and that really feels bad. They were doing well, metastatic breast cancer on treatment, but you lose them to something else, you really feel bad. And they were really, I mean, touch wood, they were doing good, so with a good quality of life. And such people, if you lose to COVID, you really feel, okay, I mean, something is wrong. So I would encourage all of you, if you have anybody known, contact of yours with cancer or on therapy, in between the chemotherapy cycles, when the counts have recovered, they can go and take it. And don't worry which vaccine is available, whichever is available to you, you take it. So there are two things, Covishield and Covaxin, which is freely available in India. Sputnik is yet to come, probably from this month it's going to come. So either of them. So I usually recommend Covishield because it's a viral vector. The other one is inactivated, but whichever is available, please take it. And at least make sure you take your first dose. The second dose, anyway, it is beyond 4 to 12 weeks. And encourage people whom you know. Only patients who have undergone bone marrow transplants, then these people require to wait for at least 3 months.
Thank you, Dr. Smita and Dr. Aparna. We at Niramai also believe that, and we try and encourage as much as possible for getting your vaccination. We also have an offer for those who have got vaccinated. Our screening will be given at a discounted cost if you show your vaccination certificate to us. So please avail that opportunity, get your vaccination, get yourself screened for breast cancer. There's just, I think, one last question where it's, and Dr. Smita, I'll ask you this question because you dealt with this at the beginning. Saying family history means either from maternal or paternal side or either side.
It can be from either side, but as I said, it's important to say first degree relative. So first degree relative means your mother or your sister. This is the most important thing. The other thing is, if you're like, your paternal side will be your father having, or there is any paternal side of male breast cancer, then it becomes important. So it can be either. The first degree relative is the most important thing. The second degree, third degree relative also has some amount of risk, but the most important is the first degree relative. It can be maternal or paternal, either of them.
Thank you, Dr. Smita and Dr. Aparna. I would just like to add, in continuation, you can see a lot of chats, comments on the chat talking about how to get Niramai screening. You can click on the link. Our Niramai screening is also privacy aware. There will be no touching of the patient. We don't even see the patient. So it's a very COVID safe, COVID conscious test because there's a distance maintained and there is no physical touch. So please get your screening done for all the non-cancer victims who are listening to us today. Please get your screening done. And those who have had cancer, I hope Dr. Aparna and Dr. Smita have been able to answer all your questions. It was a wonderful webinar. I hope I've not missed any questions. If I missed, I'm really sorry. You can write to us. We will forward that question to Dr. Aparna and Dr. Smita, and they will ensure that that question is answered for you. Dr. Geeta, you were about to say something. I'm sorry, I cut you short.
No, I think it was an excellent session where you covered the whole gamut of screening and diagnosis and treatment. So I'm sure our audience has benefited quite a bit. Thanks again for Rosh to bringing both of you to this forum. I just wanted to thank Lakshmi also for doing a great job of moderating and giving her expert comments in between. And a reminder to all of the audience, we have this women's webinar series and talks every month. And actually, we are planning to have some special talks for the yoga day and so on and so forth. So we would probably have it like every 15 days. So just, subscribe for our YouTube channel as well as, register, and we will keep you posted about all the new series of talks that we do. This is purely focused on women health. It's free webinar and just to create awareness. Thanks a lot to Dr. Smita and Dr. Aparna for excellent talk. Thank you.
I think it's wonderful that there's somebody coming forward for the women's health, and I think we all should learn to not to neglect ourselves, to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, on the dot.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi, thank you, Dr. Geeta, thank you, Dr. Aparna, wonderful sessions, and thank you, Rosh.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Lakshmi.
you,
Thank
Niramai
you, thank
team.
you.
It was a wonderful session, well organized. And thank you, Smita, and thank you, Rosh, for this nice webinar.
Thank you.
Thank
The
you. I'm
recording
sure
of
we've
this
all
will be
benefited.
available also
Yes.
on our YouTube channel. Sorry. I was just going to say the recording is available on the YouTube channel. So you can watch again and sort of look at their answers and, make sure that you revise if required. Thanks a lot, once again.
Thank you.
Over to you, Lakshmi.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rosh. Thank you, Dr. Aparna, Dr. Smita. Thank you so much.